So I love that you had your book. Eric, how many of you haven't read the book? I'm just trying to get an understanding of, okay, who's in the room. Okay. All right. So we have a mixed bag. Well, I thought since we took the poll and everyone said time, that maybe we'll start with Time Management Secrets of Billionaires. And we'll do a little exercise to get today to be one of the most productive days you've had in some time. It's a process that my father originally created working under the billionaire by the name of Charlie Munger. Any of you familiar with Charlie Munger? Okay. Business partner Warren Buffett, co-chairman of Berkshire Hathaway. So he was able to double the sales of 9 different divisions for Charlie, all within 12 to 15 months, and several of them multiple years consecutively. And he realized that Charlie had the same 24 hours in a day as he did, and yet he was working nights, he was working weekends, he couldn't get all of the work done in time. He realized I really need to master my time. But when he'd go in to see Charlie, he'd have to have an agenda. Everything was planned out ahead of time. He couldn't just say, hey, Charlie, got a minute? That didn't happen with said billionaire, right? So there's this epidemic of, hey, got a minute meetings where they just break out. And then all of a sudden, everything you had planned gets completely sidetracked because that's what we're doing all day. Hey, got a minute? Hey, got a minute? And what's become even more crazy is what our phone now does, right? These notifications of, hey, got a minute? Hey, got a minute? Research actually shows that when you get one of those notifications and it deters you from what you're focused on, it takes 3 hours. So this was a study done by, I want to say Stanford, don't quote me on that, I have to go find the source, but a reputable university, that every time you get sidetracked, it takes 3 hours to get truly back into the focus that you were at, but it's the equivalent of having slept 4 hours. So your brain capacity lowers when you get those notifications. So one of the best things to do is to actually turn off your notifications. And I also saw recently, I pulled up a lot of stats recently, and I have a research firm, so you'll hear me just give you loads of stats. I'm a random stats woman. 95% of text messages that come in are replied to within 3 minutes. Oh my gosh, this is where my father taught proactive versus reactive. So we really have to think about our days. Are we spending our day being proactive, or are we responding and being reactive to every little nuance of people and text messages and notifications? So step number 1, I'm going to give you 6 steps and we'll just do the process right now, our 6 steps to time management secrets. Is everybody ready for those steps?
Absolutely.
Okay. And I like to write them down in my notepad. I don't have my notepad on me. Okay. So step number 1 is touch it once. How many times do you reread emails? Throughout our year, it's actually the equivalent of 1 week's full vacation if we didn't perpetually reread information that comes to us. So step number 1 of Time Management Secrets of Billionaires is when you see it, do something with it. Either you reply, if it's an email, you're replying with, this is too long, must discuss during our weekly meeting. Or I need to think about this, give me some time, right? Or it goes into a folder where it says, answer these later when you have the time. Or, there's many different steps you can take that are small instead of rereading emails over and over and over again. And same with social media posts too. Somebody posts something, if you're going to reply to it, if you're going to take action on it, great, do it then. If you can't, don't read it. Save yourself the 1 week's vacation in a year. Okay, step number 2, write down your 6 top things that you need to get accomplished. So if you guys could all just write, what are your top 6 things that you need to do today? I'll give you a little bit of a moment to do that.
Hey, Amanda, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
While people are doing this, is this an exercise that we should do, in your opinion? Like I've heard it said, hey, write down at the end of the day, before you leave the office or before you wrap up work, write down what it is you want to get done tomorrow. Do you find that more valuable versus, hey, first thing in the morning when you're having coffee, write down the 6 things you want to accomplish for the day? Or does it really matter in your opinion?
I mean, you have the opportunity either time, right? Knowing what I know about the subconscious mind, so we only use 3% of our conscious mind, and 90% of the things that happen in our brain are subconscious. So if you write it down the day before, then you're sleeping on all of those possibilities. And I found it more effective if you do it the night before, but it's okay if you don't. A lot of the time I'm doing it the day of because time gets away from us. This is something that increases our productivity by 500%. And everybody that does it says, wow, that was so helpful. And yet it takes pig-headed discipline and determination to actually make sure that you do it every day. That's the whole thing. How are we doing? I'm still seeing heads down. Eric is a pro. He's like, I know all of these.
I only had 3.
Oh,
I didn't have 6.
Oh, okay. Can I move on to the next one? I can see.
Everybody good?
Okay.
Yep.
So now how much time will each task take? It could take 4 hours. It could take 20 minutes, 5 minutes, a lot. How much time? All right. Now we're going to put it into our schedules. And this is really the amazing part is, so from 9 to 10, right? You're saying, okay, I'm going to follow up with a contract. From 10 to 11, or from 10 to 10:20, I'm going to reply to all of the emails that are in my inbox, right? So you start putting in every hour or half hour, all of these 6 tasks. But as you're putting them in, step number 5 is prioritizing, because a lot of the time we'll start to put in all of the tasks that we can get done quickly at the beginning of the day. And then the biggest one that we actually need the most doesn't happen because we don't have the time. So this assists you to be able to prioritize. And I want you to be able to put aside time to be reactive versus proactive. So there's an hour in there for reactive time. That could include checking emails. That could include commenting on social media or being on social media if the necessity is there. It could be if a client or if staff need to reach out to you, you tell them this is my 1 hour of reactive time. So you're planning your reactive time versus just responding to it. So go ahead and make that schedule right now.
Amanda, can I ask a quick question?
Absolutely.
So is there some value in having that reactive time at the same time every day, or doing the bigger tasks the same time every day? This is so timely. But I'm struggling with, I feel like I get decision fatigue every day deciding when I do what and what order. And so I'm wondering if you have some thoughts on, I don't know, trying to take some of those decisions out of every day.
Absolutely. So let's say like you're checking emails. If that's the first thing in your day, a lot of the time that throws us off from what we've got planned, right? Everyone else is telling you what you have planned, but that's not what you have planned. To be smarter about your time, right? Maybe we put it at 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock and don't look at our emails until then. And if that wants to be your week or your daily, yeah, I check my emails at 11 o'clock, 11:30, right? And then we get so much smarter about our day and feel way more gratification at the end of the day because everything we thought we were going to do, we get accomplished. Whereas if you're not doing this process, and let's say you've had something on your to-do list for 2 weeks or 4 days, and you know you should do it, but you just haven't had the time. Now you will know, okay, this is what I'm getting accomplished today. And it's very rewarding.
No, that's spot on. And really, really helpful. And I do have that project that I should have started and gotten done 2 weeks ago, and it keeps getting pushed forward. And what I did today and this time is I said, I'm not going to get it done. I'm going to spend an hour.
Absolutely. Is she frozen for everyone else or just me?
No, she's frozen.
Okay, just making sure. I'm like, my internet.
But she got her question in, and hopefully she can listen. Kristen, hope you get back with us.
Okay, does everyone have their schedules? I'm looking at your faces, so I'm looking for a response. Okay, Jim's like, yeah, I'm gonna throw my neck. Okay, great. So the last step is what can I do to throw this away? Because 80% of documents or things that we keep, we actually never use again or refer back to. So that is our 6th step in time management secrets of billionaires. So again, let me go through the steps, and then I'm curious for your feedback, what you've experienced doing this. What was your takeaway? So number 1, touch it once, right? We're not rereading information. We're saving that week's vacation to go to Hawaii instead. Number 2, what are our top 6 things that we have accomplished that day? If you have less, that's great. Number 3, but not too much more, because then you just get a whole list of things that you're doing this thing where you're checking things off, but they're not really all that important. So 6 allows you to prioritize, right? Number 3, how long will it take to do each task? And if you have to chunk them down, like Kristen was saying, that's great. It assists to better get the things done. Number 4, allotting the amount of time. And then number 5, prioritizing and putting it into your schedule, hour by hour, minute by minute. And then it also helps. I realize that I get a lot smarter about my time because I'm finding out, well, I can really only hardcore focus on something for about 3 hours. That for me, like my heavy lifting is in the morning. I take a break to do email, and then over lunch I'm planning in my lunch and I do a meditation because I need to revive myself to be ready to dive deep into material, because I know that I have probably another like 90 minutes of hardcore focus, and then I'll put lighter things at the end of my day. So you get much smarter about what works for you when you get things done within your 6 top priorities. And then the last, will it hurt me to throw this away? So what has been your experience? I'm curious. Give some feedback on what you experienced with this process. Eric, yeah.
I'll give you mine. I ran into the Ultimate Sales Machine many years ago. Rick and I used to talk about it, I think, over a few different lunches. And it's something that I retrain into my team every year. In fact, we're having a conversation about it later this month. And so I was excited to pop on here. But we use a project management deal. So everybody has lots of projects and tasks underneath of them. So it's easy for us to pick our 6 for the reasons that you mentioned psychologically before. Everybody has to do it the day before so that their reticular activating system is kind of going to work on it.
Yes.
And they put it into their calendar and eat the biggest frog first, like you're saying. And everybody builds in, kind of these 3 20-minute chunks of time to deal with loose chats, texts, and emails throughout the day. And it made a tremendous difference in my life, starting 10 years ago.
Wow. I love that. Thank you for that feedback, Eric. It makes me so happy.
Yeah.
Congratulations too for getting your whole organization. I'm sure everybody else is jealous.
Well, we have to keep training it because it doesn't always happen.
There we go. I will say, I have a great story about a doctor's office. We gave them the same referral script. There were two different offices owned by the same doctor. One increased their sales by 16%. The other increased by 42%. And the only difference was that one trained on the referral script once, the other one trained on the referral script 4 times. And they doubled more than doubled, almost tripled their increase in sales.
Yeah, we need you on here to go through that chapter.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Okay. Who else wants to share? What was your experience like going through this process?
It's similar to Gary Keller's The One Thing. Where I don't know if you've read that, or I mean, the key is focus on that one thing, and just you have to expect chaos to form around that if you're doing that, and put off. And I personally put off emails until after lunch. And I spend the morning in focus. I turn off all the notifications on emails and all the sounds and stuff, and it works. It's a wonderful concept to focus on the most important thing first.
Great. I love it. Thank you, Andy.
Hey,
Anybody else?
Amanda, I want to ask 2 questions.
Yeah.
One, you kind of talked about this. Well, you did talk about this meditation that you do during the day. And, you know, I'm like you. I'm high productivity in the early mornings. That's why I do my calls like this early on, because by the afternoon I'm drained, right? But I'm curious if anybody else on this call, you know, there's different rhythms. Like I'm always jealous of the people that can go late night, because that is not my thing. But I'm up 5 o'clock in the morning. It's just the way my rhythm is. I'm curious how many people actually take time to recharge, whether it's take a walk or meditate or something during the day as a way to kind of recharge. Because I think the way we've all been brought up was you have to grind it out. You have to put the hours in. And that was the reason I asked the question about, are we focused more on what we're trying to get accomplished? And that's what I love about what you're sharing versus the time in, right? If you can knock this stuff out in 4 hours, you're great, right? So I'm just curious about that one. And then second, I wanted to know if you had a 1-page worksheet that goes through all this with you on a daily basis.
The last one, we do have it in our training program. So yes, but I don't pull it out. I always like to have it separate than my electronics. I find that I work well with writing things down. So I always have a yellow pad. Anybody else take time to midday revive with some kind of walk or meditation or something?
You know, Amanda and Rick, something that I learned, and it's a Darren Hardy thing. I just stop when I'm done. You know, I'm done when I'm done. So those 6 things, they're done, and I'm done, you know, because the recharge is kind of and I've read books about when your brain is most creative and when it's best to do the things that are more administrative. So my brain is more creative in the morning. So that's when I'm going to do the stuff that requires that 3-hour chunk of time. The administrative stuff is more about noon to 1 or 2 o'clock. So I kind of think about when I'm putting these chunks of time on my calendar, and then I'm done about 2 or 3. And you know, inevitably I get those, do you have a second kind of things. I've turned to Calendly. You guys go get on Calendly, take whenever there's a piece of free time for me, take it then. But that's my answer to your question, Rick. But I like, Amanda, the simplicity of this, and I'm with Eric. I'm gonna train this to my team, you know, because they are the ones that seem to have the biggest problems with time management. I've tried to teach little secrets, but this one is so easy and uncomplicated. Thank you, Amanda.
Oh, lovely. I love it. Okay, we got some feedback. Can I pop over to talking about generating leads? Does that sound like something you guys would like?
Yeah, I was gonna say, how many people want to learn about how to generate more leads for the business? Show of hands.
Okay. We got Jeffrey. He's new. Jeffrey, what do you do?
Am I late? Like, did the?
Yes.
I changed it on you, Jeff. It's 7:30 this morning.
Oh my gosh, I had it on as for 8. I'm so sorry.
Well, you were early for the later.
I'm sorry. Yeah. What do? I show up late.
No.
Thank you for your time today, Amanda. I apologize.
Oh no, my pleasure. I'm happy that you're here. You're hopping on for our next exercise, so this is perfect.
Great.
So can everybody see my screen? My screen's doing weird things. Can you see okay. So we are going to do the stadium pitch exercise. Eric's like, I'm a pro at all of this. And I'm excited to hear your stadium pitch. So imagine that you're in a stadium, and today's stadium could be people coming to your website. It could be people that follow you on some social media platform. Our stadiums have become a lot more online than offline. But imagine, just for the sake of this exercise, that you're in a stadium full of all of your potential prospects. And I go, okay, I'm going to hand over the mic. What are you going to talk about with this stadium full of your prospects? It will be a title. So what would be your title? Go ahead and write down what your title would be right now. And then I'll get some feedback, and the real takeaway is actually working on this now and getting that feedback. So take a few moments. What's your stadium pitch title? All right. Some of you look done, others don't. Who would like to be brave for today and say, yes, I'd like to share my stadium pitch title? Nobody wants to be brave.
Okay, fine.
Okay, great.
So I don't know. I don't necessarily understand the exercise because I just jumped on, but I looked at that stadium and I thought of like where I am with my business right now. And I thought, don't y'all call at once. That's my title. Like,
don't you all call at once. That's your title. Just making sure I have it right.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Great. Thank you for being courageous. That's awesome. Who else?
Okay, so Amanda, mine would be, no one goes into business because they're good at business.
Awesome. I love where you would go with that. Okay, who else?
Amanda, so I'll throw it out there so we've got some more. But the thing that comes to me is in search of freedom.
Nice. Anybody else?
I'll go.
Yeah.
We have different ones. We have 3 pieces of our business, but usually we're open in the conversation with a statement that's somewhere around, we're a data-driven marketing and technology enablement agency built to enhance your revenue.
Great. Thank you. Anybody else? I'll take one more.
I'll take a shot at it. We have a tag on our website that says, not your granddad's law firm.
I love that. Having inherited my father's business where everyone was double or if not triple my age, that really strikes a chord with me. So that's great. Okay, so we're going to break it down. So for any audience, for any product or service, this research shows that roughly 3% are in the buying now category. So of that whole stadium, or let's say you cold call 100 people, let's say 100 people come to your website, or it's nearly always the same. Even you're following on Facebook. Let's say you have 100 people that are following you on Facebook. 3% will be in the buying now category. Another 7% are open to it. The next 30% are not thinking about it. The next 30% think that they're not interested in you, your product or service. And the last 30% are definitely not interested. So what percentage of this pyramid is not interested in you, your product or service? Go ahead and yell it out if you know. What percentage?
30%.
90.
90%. Yes. I've been doing this lately and it's been hard for people. They're like, everybody cares about me. I'm like, wait. Research shows that 30% think they're not interested. The next 30% think are not thinking about you. And the last 30% are not interested. So 90% of your potential stadium, the people you're cold calling, the people that you're posting on social are not thinking about you. So what do we do to educate them from the bottom of that buyer's pyramid up to the buying now category? We do it through education. So let me give you an example. So think back to your title. Was it focused on them or was it focused on you? Because if you're focusing on you, you're missing out on 90% of the opportunities that are out there that your competitors could be getting. Oh, and by the way, that 3% is only focused. So that's everyone else that you're competing against with all your competitors. It's just that 3%. So this is an example. We had a real estate company out of Dubai. They used to call up Fortune 500 CEOs because their average condo was around $5 to $10 million. And only a Fortune 500 CEO would have the wealth to be able to say, yeah, I want a second home in Dubai and it's going to be a little condo for $5 million. So they'd call up and they'd try to get their attention with messaging like, we have great countertops. Our granite is so beautiful. The lighting in our place is just magnificent. We are the best. We're by the ocean. We're in Dubai. You should pay attention to us. Now, obviously, that gets 3%. And when you have Fortune 500 CEOs as your only target, it makes it a little bit hard to sell. So they had been a $17 million company. The following year, the market crashed completely. They went to zero. They didn't sell one condo for an entire year because the whole market had blacked out. Then they called us in. We created this whole training. It's magnificent. So their new stadium pitch title was Why Wealthy CEOs Are at Risk for Heart Disease, Diabetes, and Premature Death, and what you can do about it. When we first told the sales team, this is what we're going to talk about, they're like, are you crazy? We actually fired the entire sales team and hired a whole new sales team because they weren't willing to work with us. But so let me break down for you even more what this looked like. And this was all based on research that we did about this, about their Fortune 500 CEOs. So I'll go one by one. Usually I like to make them pop. I'm sorry that they're all here. So doctors recommend 7 to 8 hours of sleep a night, but the average Fortune 500 CEO only gets an average of 4 to 5 hours of sleep a night. That lack of sleep increases your likelihood of cancer by 200% and premature death by as much as 20%. The likelihood of you having a stroke increases by 50%. The likelihood of having heart disease increases by 25%. Okay, don't read the rest. Stop right here. Do you think I have their attention? Have I gotten your guys' attention?
Yes.
Okay. Whether you were interested in my product or not, do you think I got the full buyer's pyramid's attention? Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So then we go into people who take vacation lower their risk of heart attack by 50%. Wow, look at that. I should tell my board that I need to take more vacations. Vacationers experience an 80% increase in job performance.
Huh.
Wow. More CEOs are choosing to live in a vacation environment. And lastly, being near the ocean reduces your risk of heart attack by 50%. Now, I haven't mentioned that I sell condos on the beach like a second home, but how much are we thinking, yes, I think I need that, right? Thank you so much. A little applause. It deserves an applause. It was a magnificent turnaround, right? But we had to talk about what was of interest to the prospect, not what we sell, right? So that education became what keeps them up at night. What is at the top of their mind? I think I have another example here. Oh, but before I get there, this company actually increased their sales by $298 million in 8 months. They had a full turnaround. They actually increased by 3,456%, but it was magnificent. And never would you think that to sell high-end condos, we'd start talking about heart disease, diabetes, and premature death, right? But it was what was top of mind for these executives, right? They're working crazy hours. Here was another example. So this is a performance gym that takes athletes, student athletes, and helps them get scholarships. And they had a, like 85% success rate, that 85% of the student athletes that come into their gym get a scholarship. So they originally talked to the 3% by saying, we're the best sports gym around. You'll get stronger, have better endurance to be an athlete, and be the athlete you really want to be. We changed that to realizing, the first step was realizing who the target audience was. They were selling to the kids, to the students, when we really realized that it's the parents that write the check, right? So let's change who the prospect is, which was crucial for that business. And then they started talking to the parents by saying, does your child ever struggle with confidence or self-esteem? Whoa, what a completely different approach. Let's go a little bit further into this. So research backs us up. 5 to 8 times as many high school, college students meet the criteria for both depression and or anxiety. And what's happening is, unfortunately, kids now see suicide as more of a solution to their problems, right? Here in Texas, he's in Texas, somebody commits suicide on average every 2 hours. It's the second leading cause of death for people between the age of 15 to 35. Okay, so we've stopped. How do you think I've gotten the attention of the entire buyer's pyramid, right? Not just that 3%, it's what's keeping them up at night. What's keeping them up at night is the welfare of their children, right? And it's tough to find that in these schools, when average, a guidance counselor has 500 students per one guidance counselor. Our coaches have been dealing with anywhere between 15 student athletes all the way up to 100, maybe on the football team. So the same research shows how important that coach-athlete relationship is, and it's critical to the future of their mental success. If you're interested in finding out more tips, this was their Facebook. He had a Facebook ad saying this. On making sure that your child is with the right coach, click the link below to claim your free copy of the High Performance and Mental Health Secrets that start educating you and your team. So they went and talked about what was of interest, right, to the parents, and then made it applicable to what they were doing. So now they don't just sell, we're a sports performance gym. They now say we are a self-confidence, mentorship, and sports gym. And it has completely changed their business. In the first month of them running these Facebook ads, they actually increased sales by 95%. Oh, I didn't realize that I don't. Okay. I was going to say, I should have let him deliver it because it's so good. He's wonderful. Talk about a lot of energy. So let's go back to your stadium pitch titles now. And if we think about this, we want a head-turning title. We want, if you want to use, it doesn't just have to be the title. If you know of any market data that could make it even more solidified, you can utilize that in your first stadium pitch, because market data is way more motivational than product data, right? We're still talking sleep, selling condos, right? We're talking about depression, selling sports, right? So market data, not necessarily something about your product. And then content that offers solutions to problems. It's not product or service centered. It's talking about what's keeping them up at night. And then the ability to get the remaining 97% of your market aware of your product or service. So go ahead right now, let's adjust it. And then when you're ready, raise your hand and we'll share some. Kristen's now in a car. She was in a dark room and then she got to the kitchen and now she's in her car. I love it. On the go.
I am parked though. I'm not driving. Yeah.
That's great. Anybody have theirs? Want to share?
I'm ready. Oh, yeah. You guys probably knew that because you could probably hear me typing because I didn't have myself on mute.
You're okay.
All right. On average, every time your business processes a payroll, it takes a half an hour off your life.
So what are you going to talk about?
I'm going to talk about the same thing that the cigarette companies talked about or the people that didn't like the cigarette companies talked about whenever they talked about cigarettes, and how just doing that, taking that time to smoke a cigarette, which by the way took the average cigarette takes 5 minutes off your life or something like that. They're actually talking about the time it takes to smoke a cigarette. They're not talking about the end of your life. You lose 5 minutes. You're just losing that 5 minutes while you're smoking a cigarette. So what I would end up talking about is the time that you end up losing doing it yourself, and how on average it's about a half an hour for each one of these businesses we work with.
So you do payroll processing?
Yeah.
Accounting firm?
No.
No.
I work for accounting firms. Actually, I probably should have a stadium pitch specific to accounting firms.
Oh, you work with accounting firms to
Right.
process their payroll.
Right. This is kind of an end client, something they could use. Right.
So
but
give me an example of like one of your best success stories of a client that you were able, did you save them time? Did you save them money?
oh yeah. So time, of course. Right. And that's the same thing to me, but we work with a restaurant group, and they came to us via an accountant that we work. Actually, no, they came to us via an HR consultant that we work with. And their experience was terrible beforehand, in that they didn't know where their tax dollars were going when they needed support to understand things. There was no support there. The person that was admin there, they actually had an on-staff accountant adminning, and that person didn't seem to know what she was doing. And when they came over to us, not only do they get the support they need, but they also get things that they didn't have before, like the ability to use certain features that we can offer that you just cannot offer if you don't have the kind of software that we have to do it. I don't want to get, because it gets kind of like super detailed, and you're all going to go to sleep if I start talking about it.
I'm just trying to better understand to give you a stadium pitch. So people come and take action much faster when they're put in pain, right? So could it be something like the 5 biggest failures that put companies out of business, and the single greatest thing you can do to save even just X amount of money, X amount of time, right? So can we hit on their pain point of taxes or on a payroll? I had an 8-figure IRS audit for the first 5 years that I inherited my business, and it was a bloody nightmare. And wow, it would have been so nice if somebody could have educated me on that. I would have gobbled up that information. So do you see where I'm going?
Yeah. Okay. Well, you're speaking to somebody that is experienced. You're speaking to somebody that's kind of experienced the other side of it. How do you have a conversation with somebody that doesn't know that kind of pain yet? They don't even know that they don't know that pain.
Right. So that's why it's the 5 biggest failures putting companies out of business. I didn't even talk about taxes, although that would be one of them, right? Taxes. Number 2 would be failure of CEOs to make better decisions. Number 3. So it would be education that would then lead them to you as the solution.
Okay. I'll stop typing, or I'll put myself on mute so you don't hear me typing.
Something to think about. It'll keep refining, right? I'm just making it up off the top of my head, but bringing to the point of, wow, if you put a number in front, and for some reason odd numbers seem to resonate with people better, the single greatest thing you need to learn about X, right? The 3 best, I give webinars all the time on the 3 strategies to double sales. So it's not just, hey, I'm going to help you grow. it's very specific. It's 3 steps. And then it's also, how much am I going to help you grow? So what percentage of time are you saving them? What percentage of profitability can you boost for them? What are they losing? What are some of your worst pain points that people have experienced? And how can you highlight them to explain that you want to have a different experience, right? So does anybody else have another stadium pitch?
Amanda, I don't have a pitch, I think, but I think I'm beginning to understand what you're saying. And so maybe it's a pitch. 57% of emergency room doctors miss whiplash, concussions arising from whiplash. 20% of people with whiplash also have post-concussion syndrome. 17% of people who have post-concussion syndrome arising from whiplash 3 years after a car wreck have a disabling injury that impacts their life to the extent that they can no longer work or something like that. I mean, you pretty it up.
Yeah.
But talking about a brain injury that lots of people miss, doctors even miss it in the ER. And then people 3 years later are suffering from depression and all sorts of things that they had no idea is really related to a car wreck, whiplash, because an ER doctor never told them that's what was going on.
Wow, I love that. Like the 3 biggest things you didn't know that could be affecting your mental and your mental health and your brain health.
Yeah.
I don't know what that would be, something. And then backing it up by those statistics. Wow, those are great wow statistics. To find those wows are fantastic.
But that's the
Yes. Yes.
okay.
Just adding a title to it, right? So you have the market data, which is fantastic. Okay. Now it's just, how do I add a title that'll grab them with one line, right? Hey, what do you do? If someone comes up to you, hey, what do you do? Well, did you know that half of the people that spend their time in an ER room have a concussion and they didn't even know about it, and 20% of those end up having a disabling brain function. So there's actually 3 things that you can do that you didn't know about that are causing you brain issues, and we help solve those, right? Let me tell you a little bit more. Okay. Wow, how interesting, right? Or if you're trying to get people that are having accidents, the 5 things you didn't know about your car accident that could create lasting damage. So then you're targeting the people that have had car accidents. But if you're not solving it for anybody else, then might as well zero in on those, right? The 3 things that.
Wait, yeah, it's that catastrophic injury. I'm just trying to educate on that, because when they get with me, I'm going to make sure they're with the right doctors who are going to help them, and ultimately I'm going to make sure that they're compensated for that.
Got it. Oh, compensated. Okay, so that's even better. So the 3 things you didn't know about your car accident that could lead to long-lasting brain injury, as well as money you didn't know you could receive, or something around like the percentage of money that could be owed to them, right? That's a head-turning title for someone that's had an injury, right? In a automotive accident.
Well, they usually, there's a financial impact. I have a client who did very well in the car industry, has a financial impact. He lost his job. He will never work again because of what seemingly was a whiplash injury. So
great. That
it
is
has financial impact. Right.
Absolutely. The 3 things you didn't know about from a car accident that could put you out of business, lead to permanent brain damage. And these are things that nobody's talking about, right? Learn more, right? Wow.
That's it.
It's great.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, anybody else? See, this is the difference between reading the book and having me here, right? Is that you tell me and then I go, oh, wow, yeah, let's work on this a little bit. We have 6 minutes.
I'll share mine with you.
Yes.
So we have to write a lot of these for our clients, and so we write them for ours too. So ours are always kind of variations of the same thing. But and they're all borrowed from your book and Tony Robbins and a few others. But you know, and everything starts with data for us. It's we're a data-driven marketing company. But we always ask people, are you activating your data in ways that increase your current client value by 130% and increases your new the value of your new acquisitions by more than twofold?
Awesome. Spot on. Everybody heard that, right? You're like, who wouldn't want that? I'm not doing that. Nobody says I'm using my data to the best degree. That's fantastic. Great job, Eric.
I don't think it's fair. He got to go last.
Well, he's also read the book for the last 10 years. So
I don't think
that
it's
is
fair.
the
He read the
difference.
book.
That is the learning curve difference. I love it. And so how are you utilizing that, Eric? Just curious. Like what kind of mediums?
We have probably 17 different marketing channels. Most of them are digital. Three of those are traditional, but they're all driven towards landing pages that unpack that information and kind of teach the expert's lesson, you know, so the 80-20 principle when you're talking about your new acquisition and the data that you see in your client data that tells you what it is, so you know how to target it over here on your prospect database, you know, and so that's how you get to the twofold. And on your current client data, we're just taking those Tony Robbins, you know, lesson on, you know, increase your LTV, you know, keep them longer, cross sell them and upsell them, you know, by 10% each to get to that 130. And so we just unpack that and we recanonize the content to be industry specific based on who we're going after.
I love it. I'd love to interview you, actually. I just launched a podcast. You're a perfect case study for us, if you'd be open to it.
Sure.
Awesome. Great. Anybody else? Take the dive. 3 minutes.
What about you, Rick?
You know, I'm sitting here. It's interesting because I'm going through a bit of transition, not on the wealth management side so much as, you know, my podcast is the Over 50 Entrepreneur. We work with business owners. I love doing this stuff, bringing folks like Amanda on to help educate. But I've really been thinking about the Over 50 community, and I'm actually presenting at the second half expo next week, and it's really put my feet to the fire. But it's something that I've been working on for a long time, and I feel like it gives me a chance to kind of explore this with the audience. The reality is that there's the biggest concern with the over 50 community is that they will not have enough resources to live the lifestyle that they've become accustomed to in retirement. That is not an investment conversation. What I'm trying to do is get folks to realize that the game has changed. And I have the information to go through that, the data to support that, which I have. But getting them to understand that conversation is really, you know, what I'm thinking. So you've got my wheels thinking as I'm trying to put my presentation together actually on, you know, I go around freedom because what I know is people want freedom. They want freedom of time. They want financial freedom so that they can do the things they want to do, whether that's family, it's community, it's bigger entrepreneurial things. And trying to bring that together in the context of, you know, what's in front of us, right? We just know average person doesn't have enough set aside for retirement. Social Security is going to be impacted in 13 years. Pensions don't exist for most of us. So what do we do? And I think what I keep coming back to is not for everybody, but for those that are open, they bring experience. What Eric Weisgarber brings to the table as an older person, Eric, you're quickly getting here. He's got a massive amount of technical skills, But I think what's more important than that is he's got experience. And when you combine that with his network, his community of people, he is an incredible resource for the people he serves, right? In the businesses. And so Amanda, I'm rambling because my brain is kind of digesting and refreshing here, trying to consider that. So I don't know, if that's totally off base, but I wanted to, that's what's on my mind.
It makes me want to show you something else, but I don't have time. Okay.
Maybe I need to schedule some one-on-one time with you. So,
yeah.
So,
but that, I mean, right. It's going back to how many different things can you talk about? Is it the 3 things or the 5 things that hold people over 50 back from having financial freedom, or freedom, right? Just saying freedom, or the 3 biggest reasons that people over 50 experience financial disaster, unhappiness, or mental health, or depression. The 3 biggest reasons why people over 50 experience depression and financial pitfalls. I'm going to teach you about that, right?
Yeah.
And then it goes into everything that you do, right? Number 1, number 2, number 3.
Well, I'd be curious for this group, if you guys, if you have input, right? Like what, when you think about this, what comes to your mind as concerns and things, email me. I'd love to get the feedback, because I think that would be really helpful in trying to craft this. Like you said, Amanda, that's where I get stuck, right? Is like the data is everywhere. And, but what does that mean? And how do I grab the attention would be important.
Oh man, this goes all into the new edition of the book that I just wrote, because we have people like Eric who have mastered the stadium pitch title, and now it's refining the whole education behind it. And I actually took the buyer's pyramid and I flipped it upside down, because that's what we do with our core story framework. Starting with the global pains, so you understand those pains, getting more targeted about what their pains are, then leading them to solutions. Resetting the buying criteria and an offer. That's what I want to show you. I told you in the last 30 seconds, but yeah, maybe we follow up there.
Well, it is a journey. And Amanda, I'm going to speak on behalf of this group. This has been amazing. And my hope is it sparks, maybe a rethinking our time management as let's face it, the year is fast approaching an end. And we're going to be into the first quarter of 2022 before we know it. So looking at those big things that we want to get done, we have to approach it differently. I love the stadium pitch. It's a great reminder. It's one I listen to all the time. And to be honest with you, I've always been intimidated by that, because it's a vulnerability, right? To share. So this has been great to do that. If you were to leave the group with any last message, what would it be?
Well, it's just really quickly, a vulnerability. That's interesting. I've never heard that feedback before. So a big part of me stepping in, so my father passed 9 years ago, and there was no plan for me to take over the business. I was a singer-songwriter. I was studying meditation in an ashram in Asia with my guru. No plans, right? And then here I am, a couple hundred staff. I'm 24 years old, and I'm going, what do I do here? And a huge part of my realization to be able to take over and to be able to continue forward was just this pig-headed discipline and determination about being in service, and realizing that it had nothing to do with me and everything to do with what do our clients need, what serves them. And when I think about what serves them best, it's what can I educate them on so they can make better decisions with the information that I share with them, because I am the expert, right? I mean, I'm speaking for you because you are the expert. At that time, I wasn't the expert, but I did know that education was the way. So instead of a vulnerability, it has nothing to do with you, right? It has to do with serving them. I don't know if that also coupled in your question of what would be the one thing. I think that's my come from, and it helps helps me get out of my own way.
It's great, and I really appreciate that. So we've come to the end of the time. Quick question for the group. Any last question for Amanda? I mean, we've been very fortunate to have her for the last hour. I'll open it up to the group as we come to a close.
I'll just say thank you.
Very much. Thank you. Very valuable.
Agreed. Thank you.
Lovely.
All right.
Yeah. If you want a little bit more training on this, we have a whole 3 video series on it that dives a little bit deeper. It's at, oh, I just changed the URL. Okay, it's still at chetholmes.com. So you opt in and there's a whole video series that helps you because, as we talked about earlier, repetition is the mother of all skill. So just hearing me say it once, it takes multiple times to get that going. So chetholmes.com, there's a 3 video series on how to double your sales with 1 hour a week. So how do you work on this 1 hour a week?
And Amanda, you've got the new podcast. You want to say something about that again as well?
Yeah, we just launched a new podcast yesterday. It's quite funny. I went to 2 trade shows in the last 2 weeks, and I happened to record 20 episodes. Not planning to. I recorded it. Just the universe provided all of these wonderful, influencing thought leaders that just landed in my lap. So I happened to find videographers while I was there and recorded 20 episodes of brilliant minds talking about everything from marketing to sales to running a successful business. So we just launched our first episode yesterday. They will come out once a week, every Thursday. The first one was my father. I took a never before heard audio of my father doing a sales training call live, and it is just 22 minutes of pure gold, punching out of every word. So that's also another thing, the CEO Mastery Show. So you can find that on iTunes or Spotify, or go to YouTube. We're under Ultimate Sales Machine. But yeah, the CEO Mastery Show is now out.
Very good. Well, Amanda, what I'm going to do is I'm going to record this. We'll clean it up a little bit. We won't make it real fancy, I'll be honest with you, but I will email it out to everybody along with the link to the 3 videos that you talked about, as well as a link to the new podcast. And
Great.
I encourage everybody that doesn't have a copy of the book, to grab a copy. It is really one to go to. And Eric, you tell me, it's a regular one to just reference periodically when you feel stuck. And it's amazing how it gets the juices flowing again and can break through on whatever you may be dealing with. So I appreciate you. Again, for those of you in the Oklahoma City area, if you got nothing to do next week, come hang out at the expo. It's free. There's vendors. There's some great speakers. Cliff Hudson from Sonic is going to be the keynote, and would love to see you guys there. Other than that, have a fabulous week, and we'll check on you guys soon. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.